Welcome to your Directors Club of America podcast and backstage pass to the biggest themes in the game, the power players. I'm Jennifer Gelhaus, your co-host along Kyla Kwa. Today, we are joined by Frank Giampaolo, who is frankly a giant in the tennis instruction world, an award-winning international coach, speaker, and sports researcher. It was so fun to learn from him, and we have no doubt you will enjoy this episode. Make sure to subscribe to Power Players so you don't miss any of these conversations. And if you want to keep the conversation going, as always, we invite you to follow us on LinkedIn, comment on our post, and let us know what you think. No filter needed. Welcome to Power Players. We have Frank Giampaolo today. Did I say that right?
Perfectly.
All right,
Hi.
great. Thanks for joining us today. Frank, we always start with Kyle, who has a burning question. So go ahead, Kyle.
Sure. Thanks so much, Jennifer. Frank, great to have you on. I've been a big fan of yours. Have read the books, have read all the articles on tennisplayer.net. And what I realized is we actually have something in common. We both, early in our careers, had a great mentor, that being Vic Braden. So can you share with us
All right. Yes.
so can you share with us how Vic Braden started your career and the lessons you learned from him?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you the quick story. Out of college, I came to California from Ohio State, and I went right to his college because I was watching some of his old TV programs. It was on PBS. And anyway, I just went, knocked on the door, and they said, look, we get 12, 15 resumes a week. I go, can I just take notes? And for a week, I sat up at the club there and the old legal pads. And then went every day, dawn till dusk kind of thing. And ended up staying for 2 weeks. And then they offered me a position. And the wonderful part was that's when they had the Koto Research Center. And that's where we did so much of the high-speed film, the 1,000 frames per second with all the pros. And it was wonderful. I'd go to work one day and there'd be famous actors and actresses on the court. And that's exciting when you're a kid. But most exciting was getting to do high-speed film with the biggest names in the business and making instructional videos with Arthur Ashe. And so that goes back. I don't know if anybody even remembers him too much. Everybody knows his legacy. But so, yeah, then I worked at his college. I later on became his agent, and we traveled and did tennis colleges. I opened some around the world. Did the Nuveen Senior Tour with him. So for 6 years, we did the corporate entertaining type of clinics and TV. And I did the stats. And I got to be honest, I wasn't so accurate, but he would look over at me for what's the stats? And I'm like, shit, I had to make half of it up. But they didn't care. It was more like the Globetrotters. It was like the show where Borg and McEnroe and Connors and my buddy Johan Creek and those guys all played on it. So me being a kid growing up with those guys and then going on the court to warm them up for matches in different cities, that was crazy. What a memory to be hitting with a Bjorn Borg. And so that was awesome too. So I did that for years. And as most people know, he's a wonderful guy. His emotional aptitude is off the hook. And he's so into the science of it. And that's what got me into the sports science part and the biomechanics and trying to dispel the myths of the game. And you remember that. That's still prominent. You go to most country clubs and the coaches are in the dark ages.
Oh.
And I still am. I got to be honest. It's just we have so much to learn.
So where do you think the science went? Because it used to be Vic Braden brought the science to the forefront, and then you had USTA Sports Science Committee, and they were doing a lot of research. And my good friend Jack Groppel, he did amazing work. But then the last, I don't know, like 10, 15 years, it's just gone silent. What do you think's happened to that?
That's a great question, though, Carlos. I don't know what happened to it, to be honest. I just think that most coaches got a little bit lazy, compliant. Most of us are happy with what we have. As coaches, we we go to work, and if we're on court coaches instead of directors, sometimes we're driving to work and we don't even know what we're going to be teaching that day. It's not even customized to anybody. We just go to work saying, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to do approach shots and volleys today. And then most coaches repeat that same lesson for 4 or 5 hours a day and go home, and they don't really get into it and buy into it. But it's massive. I think sometimes that's why our players are falling behind a little bit, because we're teaching some of the myths still. Jennifer, what do you see from your side in Florida?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you about that because obviously we were just talking and I was telling you I've been in like the country club world for quite a while now. And it's interesting because you do get people, you get a mix of people. You get the people that really want to learn and are open. And sometimes you get people that just want to work out, have fun. They're casual players. And I think you can sometimes put yourself in an environment as a coach where if that's what you're getting 90% of the time, it kills that drive to really learn the sports science and follow that because what you're it doesn't really apply to what you're doing.
Yeah,
It should, but it doesn't.
Yeah, that's a different type of environment, a club where there's snowbirds, and we're more like Band-Aid pros, right? We're going to see somebody for a couple weeks. And you guys know that if they're interested in learning, if they're changing biomechanics, motor programs, that's like a 4 to 6 week commitment. And that's tough for a lot of people. Even a lot of adults, they love doing a video analysis course, and they understand it, and they buy into it, but the next day their old motor programs come back. So it's like temporary learning. And we see that a lot. For me, though, I think it's so important from directors and coaches that we really pay attention to the students' brain type. Their personality profile matters a ton. And that's something we have to really be secretly hunting for is, are they more introverted or extroverted? That buys into whether they're going to enjoy more private to more groups. And is the brain type more of a sensate or intuitive? And sensate people want all the facts before they make a decision. Intuitive people just want to try it first, talk about it later. And we have to get into their world. And that's part of the science. Even like judges or perceivers, where judges are so orderly and structured, and they want structure. They want to go on the court and talk about the 2 or 3 things they want to work on. They want to be organized every lesson. We shouldn't wing it with a judge or student. And like perceiver personality profiles, that brain type is found in the future. So they're super likely to be up 5-2. And now their brain is already thinking about, where's the trophy going to go in my house? And what are my friends going to say? And they blow the lead. And so for us, I think it's super important that we just go online, do a free Myers-Briggs type indicator, try to figure out how you're wired. And then it becomes super easy. And this is something I started with Vic Braden in the 1990s. We would do brain typing with every student. And it's powerful. So, Kyle, have you been getting into that too yourself?
Yes, Vic Braden brought that up, and I know Vic Braden had a protege as well in Andy Fitzel. I don't know if I'm sure you, Andy.
Sure.
And Andy is very big on the brain typing, and he can pretty much go on court, and within 30 seconds, he can pretty much nail down that player's brain type. And it's really fascinating. For me, I work with a lot of coaches. I'm a coach developer, and I always talk to coaches, mostly in the club space. Our members come to us for one of 3 reasons: education, enjoyment, and exercise. And if you can nail down one of those 3 E's, you're pretty good. And then there's subcomponents in each, but ultimately, we're in the service and hospitality business. And so, like Jennifer said, she brought up a great point. If you're just used to delivering this type of lesson and it's social, then you lose that incentive to do the sports science stuff because not a lot of people want that. They just want to get some exercise. They want a sense of belonging, play on their ladies and men's teams, and just go out and have a good time. And that's it. And
Not everybody, but for the most part,
yeah. And that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing to see players. They're the weekend warriors, and
Now it sounds like, Frank, you had some, doesn't sound like, it's a fact. You were surrounded by incredible coaches right off the get-go. Like as soon as you got into coaching. So, not everyone is as fortunate.
Yes.
Some you might just love tennis and decide that, oh, maybe I can start coaching. And sometimes you may not be so lucky and you end up in some clubs where you're not having great mentors or you don't really have coaches that you can really look up to. What are your thoughts on, yeah, mentorship and also coach education, certifications, and that kind of thing? Because it's your learning as a coach was very hands-on. Maybe you were still into certifications, but it sounds like it was very hands-on with Vic and all these great coaches.
I think you have to make your own luck and you have to seek out the mentors. And luckily for us nowadays with YouTube's, we can find mentors and just watch their videos. That's a mentorship too. To me, every student that I have, like right now, I'm working with this gal, Kaya, and she just signed for Stanford and she's 17. And she's mentoring 4 of our 12-year-olds. So I'm trying to get the athletes to be a mentor and seek a mentor, but also the tennis parents. And that's a big world too, a whole different topic. But even our 12-year-olds, they're mentoring 8 and 9-year-olds. And so everybody, what I'm trying to do from our side down here in Southern California, where I'm at, is I'm trying to teach them to be mentors. And a big part of that for me with any mentor is when you're mentoring, when I'm mentoring, is ask, don't tell. It's not in our best interest as coaches to tell somebody what to do. I think, in my opinion, we should ask them, what do you think you should do? What do you think the solution is to that problem? And when we do that, it activates the problem solving regions of their brain. When we tell people what to do, and you guys know if you have kids out there, but man, if you tell them what to do, the ego shuts it down and they don't even try to problem solve. They just get defensive. So the more we ask, the better. And the better we become at being mentors.
Yeah. That's really smart because to have like the kids also be mentors, because obviously it teaches them, it helps with introspection, right? Like when you have to
Yes.
teach someone how to do it, you also become better at that thing.
Yeah.
But I was listening to this other podcast and I was with Malcolm Gladwell, but he was talking about mentorship and how the best mentors sometimes are those that are just 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, not someone that's so far ahead of what you're trying to do. Would you agree with that?
But yeah, sometimes I would. I think it just depends on your position right now in your field, in your area. Sometimes that's all we have, people that are a couple steps above us, and that's fine. And again, with this whole idea about personality profiling, that makes a difference too. Some people want the hands-on mentorship, so they want somebody close by. I think it's really powerful for you guys, for the good coaches. If you have younger coaches, they should either sit and watch your lessons or you should audio tape your lessons. And Vic taught me this a long time ago, way back when we used to use cassette tapes, but we would put a little portable cassette recorder in our teaching basket. And then at night after lessons, we would listen to ourselves. And man, I got to admit, I was horrible.
It's like cringe, right?
Oh my God. I thought it was so positive, and I'm like, don't do this, don't do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But man, that's mentoring yourself even. But
Yeah.
and look, it's not new. 1,000 years ago, Seneca, one of those Stoic philosophers, says, "What you teach, you learn." That's 2,000 years
That's
old.
true.
So
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what Vic Braden would always say is that, and also with the Steve Smith. I don't know if you're familiar with the great bass.
I know Steve well. Yeah.
Okay, so I've known Steve for many years, and there's always a saying that the best way to learn something is to teach it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that really what competing is all about in tennis? It's self-coaching. It's your inner dialogue. In matches and tournaments, in league play, drama is going to show up. Pressure is going to show up. That's part of competing. And how our athletes prepare for pressure is us teaching them the inner dialogue or the solutions. And yeah, man, that's right on. So
Yeah. I think that's great advice, by the way, to video yourself. I've said the same thing to some fellow coaches because I never did that. I'm always recording the players, right, to show them, the changes that we want to make. But it wasn't until I actually started doing podcasts and I had to listen to myself talk, and I realized, like, oh my gosh, all the filler words you use, and you just become a better communicator when you can really listen to yourself.
That's great advice right there. Listening. I think we have to be better listeners as coaches. Yep. And having that type of personality, which sometimes we're natural at being more extrovert or more of a sensitive feeler personality. And some people are very easy to talk to. Some people aren't. And if you're not, you're going to have to fake it till you make it. If you're not wired to be the Pied Piper, the outgoing person, I think that's part of your gig. You're going to have to be positive and outgoing and social. And I think we did a study back in the 90s too, that 80% of tennis coaches are more introverted. It's rare to find those outgoing folk. So if you can get a combination,
yeah,
boy.
Frank, it's funny because there's also the misconception that in sales, if you're in sales and marketing, that you need to be extroverted. The extroverts always do better in sales. And really, what the studies found is that the introverts do better in sales because introverts are trusted more.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's a really interesting topic. And you mentioned something earlier about how we need to listen to the student. And for the last 8 days, I've been doing coaching workshops. And on day one of the coaching workshop, I do this exercise with all the coaches. I go out on court and I say, okay, coaches, I want you to help me. I want you to fix my forehand. And they're like, okay, great. And I drop the ball and I hit 4 forehands as hard as I can. And I say, okay, tell me, how can you help me? And of course, they all chime in. You need more wrist. You need to bend your knees. You need more hip rotation. You need to keep your head still. You need more spin. And then at the end, I say, okay, great. Now I'm trying to hit a drop shot. Does that change anything? Because nobody asks, what shot are you hitting? They just want to get right into trying to fix stuff. And I think it's a really valuable point of you have to listen to the student and what the student wants to try to hit.
Yeah, no, right on. There's so many things that we could be teaching that we're not teaching, in my opinion. When I was working with Canada, we really worked a ton on not teaching biomechanics, but teaching the 5 situations. What do you do? What is your tennis identity? What is your game plan? What are your strengths? What do you do when you're doing your serve plus ones, return plus one? Who are you? Where do you stand? Where do you aim? Where do you stand on the second serve? And then we talked about what's your game plan when you're on offense, neutral, defense. And it's a wonderful topic because most athletes, they're so focused on their own biomechanics because of the coaching. They get into the match and they're focused on their own biomechanics and they're in their conscious mind. And you guys know when you're playing in the zone, you're in your subconscious mind. It's a free flowing, you're not thinking about your own strokes. And to me, I love getting players to that situation where their solutions are so pre-programmed. When I was working with the Harvard players, one of the things that we did that was so interesting is I had to make audio tape recordings to listen to, and they made their own solutions on, give me 2 or 3 words. How are you going to fix your forehand drive if it's malfunctioning? Not functioning, sorry. High and heavy forehands, short angles, drop shots, lobs. And so we talked about the idea that drive, high and heavies, short angles, drop shots, lobs, slices. There's not a forehand, there's 6 forehands. And there's 6 backhands that good players are trying to learn. So as coaches, that's a lot more data. There's a lot more information. It's a lot more lessons. How do you teach a short angle to get a moonball pusher off the court? So 6 forehands, 6 backhands. As you guys know, volleys, swing volleys, drop volleys, transition volleys. Right. Oh my gosh, it's the menu that we could teach is incredible. You can teach 100 hours a week and you wouldn't touch all the topics.
That's
So
why we have careers, right? Because there's always something to work on. I mean,
yeah, you're right. And I think it's true. Tennis is one of those things like a book that you're reading that you never really get to the end, which
yeah,
is wonderful. It's for us too as coaches. I find it interesting that if we can get the athletes just to look at their tennis game in the forms of hardware and software. You know how your cell phones and computers, the hardware and the software work seamlessly together. And so in tennis, their hardware is their tool belt of all their strokes, 6 forehands, 6 backhands, and then their tool belt of all their athleticism, speed, agility, endurance. And to me, speed is not just footwork, it's brain speed. You guys know cognitive processing speed. It's interesting. We see people that are very quick on their feet, but they're so tied up in thinking about all the possible scenarios, they hesitate and they don't move sooner. And so, hardware, software is the mental and the emotional. And the mental to me is number one is what is your tennis identity? What style should you be playing as a tennis player? What fits your personality profile? So, what style do you play? Hard hitting baseliner, backcourt retriever, and then understanding who you are with your strengths and exposing your strengths. When I coached Sam Querrey a lot as a kid, we worked on serve and forehands probably 90% of the time. We worked on building weapons, not just fixing weaknesses. So that's a game plan. And the last is the emotional side, which I find it fascinating. You guys probably do too, but how do you handle choking, panicking, tanking, nervousness, and the amygdala hijack, which is super interesting to me. There's people get so nervous, they get so emotional that the brain is flooded in the amygdala, and there really is cortisone, adrenaline floods it, and then they can't even get to the problem solving front of their brain. Yeah. So their lights go out. It's like the light turned off. So you see it. You guys see it in adults and juniors. They're up 6-2, 5-1. Now they start thinking about too many things. They maybe lose one game, and then they get emotionally hijacked. And boom, lights out. And so how we teach that topic to me is it's so important. And most coaches don't teach the mental and emotional, right? Most coaches just teach the biomechanics. So if we're trying to help coaches and tennis directors, I think it would be put together a tool belt that all the other coaches in your city are not even touching. There's so many coaches teaching the strokes. I would try to get our coaches to teach hardware and software a little bit more. So
yeah.
they'll be so booked.
And also consider that in their own coaching, right? But I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about your career as a coach. When you got into coaching, you started learning about sports science and all these really interesting things about tennis. Did you have any idea of what a career in coaching would look like for you? Did you dream big? Or have you just gone from one thing to the next? Like, how have you approached your career as a coach?
I guess both of those situations apply to me. I did have a plan to do this long term, and I knew that if I was going to do it, living in a small town in Ohio probably wouldn't work. So I had to move, and that's a risk, of course. But I went into. You're right. I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time, but I put myself in the right place at the right time.
Right.
And so that's something we have to kind of encourage our coaches to do is to get out there with the right people, network with the right people. And that's the big key with going to all these coaching conferences is networking, really. It's huge. I love going to them. I've probably spoke at 100 of them. I don't know. But I love going to all the coaches' seminars, taking notes on my cell phone. And you meet so many great coaches. So look, I think we should get out there and coach more. I went from Vic Braden's to being a tennis director at a club in San Clemente. Then I traveled with Vic for years. And then I was tennis director at, it was called the Sherwood Country Club in LA. It's in Malibu. And that was a fun gig, 5, 6 years. I didn't know what to expect. It was one of the top, still is one of the, I think, top 5 most expensive country clubs in the country. It's a little bit hidden still. Back when I did this, 2002, 3, 4, I think the initiation fee just to join the club was $300,000 just to be a member. And it was mostly Hollywood elites. So it was an odd gig. I would go on the court and I would teach Wayne Gretzky and then his kids. And then I can't even remember all the famous folks that I got to work with. But it turned out I wasn't really that interested in that. It was fun for about a year. And then you're like, so
Yeah.
I guess I was always more of an educator. Traveling with Vic, though, he's the one that looked over at me and said, you got to start writing your own books. And I was happy being one of his sidekicks, like before Andy Fitzell. And I enjoyed that. I learned so much, but he was so great and saying, look, you got to do your own thing right now. And that's when I did the first Tennis Parents Bible, because my daughter got into it at age 10, and I wasn't that excited about her getting into tennis, but she did. She was a soccer player. And by 15, she was playing the adult US Open. And so she did it quickly, #1 in the nation and 10 gold balls, all that stuff. And then I realized, hey, man, nobody is helping the parents. And the parents are out there grinding, suffering. They're wasting a lot of time and money. And so that was the first book, Tennis Parents Bible. And then that opened it up to a lot of the coaching books and things like that. But I'm always thinking, I'm a perceiver, my brain type, and I'm always thinking, what's next and what's next. And so I encourage everybody to do that.
So what drives you to write a book? And at what point do you go, I have enough information to write a book? Because I think sometimes when you know a subject, you assume everybody knows it. How do
Yeah.
you recognize that, like, oh, people don't know this. I actually have something valuable that can help, that will make sense to write a book on.
But it started with me understanding that my take on the topic is going to be different than other people's take. So even though a lot of the topics that I talk about are the same topics other people talk about, I didn't let that deter me. I didn't say, oh, somebody else, Jack Groppel already covered this topic 10 years ago. But it wasn't the way I see it. And so I encourage coaches to look at that, because their perspective is very unique. And it's not easy. It's not easy for me being an extrovert, intuitive, feeler, perceiver. That's my brain type. But I had to make the time 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. every morning. That would be writing. And that would be before coaching. So obviously now with AI, I think coaches can probably write a book in a week.
Right.
And then you can have, look, man, I encourage you guys. I have the audiobooks, and I had some crazy AI voice make the audiobook, record my book in 10 minutes, and then it's online on Amazon Audible. And I encourage you guys to do it. Everybody that's listening, you guys have a very unique voice, and your take matters to the world. So
Do you
think
think it
about,
made you a better coach?
yeah, of course. I think is,
Yeah.
I say 90% of the topics that I find, I'm actually on the court with players, from college players down to 10-year-olds that want to be on the tour, those kind of little kids. And every day I'm writing notes in my phone, and I'm realizing that, man, 80% of the people are having the same exact problem. And that's how I put a chapter together. And then you start researching, and then you start learning. And then you realize that what you think you know is not everything you need to know. So coaches are very, we're protective. We all have egos too. And we're all competitive still, because we used to play competitive sports. So I think it's tough to get out of our own box and to try things different ways. We have our own ways of doing things. So think about how you might, if it's writing a book, think about how you would do that in a different way and see if you can get out of your own way and get into a different world. That's growth, right?
So, how do you think? Because I know you're a pretty talented musician. How do you think music has helped you in your career? Think outside the box and get out of your own
Well,
way.
no, yeah, thank you for saying that. I totally love doing that still. I was a songwriter for a Nashville publisher for years, doing that on the side when I was traveling with tennis players, and I would have my guitar in the hotel room. The biggest lesson I learned with one of the big hit writers I was co-writing with is dummy up. And I know that sounds weird, but it shouldn't be that complicated. And so with a lot of our listeners in music, simplifying it. And some of our coaches that are super intelligent, I think sometimes we do have to dummy up a little bit and get into the world of the kid and try to figure out how they think, how they process. So that's one of the fun parts about coaching is, to me, I like the idea of just having a ton of fun and using your sense of humor. Don't hide it, use it. And obviously nowadays more than ever, we have to be a little bit more appropriate. But yeah, man, show your personality. Open up like.
Just kidding.
I know 90% of the funny things I have in my head, I have to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Can't say that now. But
It is funny though when you mention how you have to keep it simple. Because going back to songwriting, some of the greatest songs of all time were super simple and they were written in 10, 15 minutes. I think Peter Frampton wrote Show Me the Way in like 15 minutes on a hammock in the Bahamas.
yeah,
So
I heard that
you just
story.
have to, yeah, you have to keep it simple.
I think so. And I think that's what students want from a coach is that simplicity. I would say if they have a problem, I would say, look, tell me about it. Explain to me what you think's going on. Then show me your strokes. And then as a coach, zero it down to one topic at a time, whether it's closing your racket on your backswing or using the right grip, whatever the topic is, and keep it pretty simple. To me, it's always such a customized gig. That's why I like it. Every problem needs a different solution because they all think differently. So how they approach it, how they find the solution it's our job. So getting into their world, which kind of is songwriting too, right? We want to hit the emotional core of a listener. They don't want all the data. They don't want a 20-minute song. It's like, don't bore us, get to the chorus.
That's Bon Jovi.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite artist? Or what kind of music is your favorite?
I like anything from like Wilco, which is more like an alternative kind of thing. I love Nashville guys like Chuck Cannon or even like Jeffrey Steele. If you guys have never heard of Chuck Cannon, and if you like songwriting, if you like music, he will knock your socks off. He probably has 40 big hits, but his own songs are way better than the simple pop ones that they write. So yeah, if you like that kind of world, get into Chuck Cannon. He's like insane. I still talk to him every week, but that's a great question to ask your athletes because that shows their personality a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can even tell just by their clothes. You look at what was the girl Maddox? I can't Bethany Sands Maddox.
Yep.
Yeah, you look at her clothes and she's an extrovert.
Yep.
And she's not going to be in long rallies. She's going to make things happen quick, probably. And
yeah, you're not going to get too many tennis players, I think, on tour that are going to be into the songs that are 10, 15 plus minutes. You're not going to have a Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin or Bohemian Rhapsody. The best songs are usually short and to the point. You could only count so many songs on one hand in terms of the extended version of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, Iron Butterfly,
yeah,
or the whole Leonard Skinner Freebird. Like
yeah,
these songs are extremely rare. They're almost like unicorns in the music world. They don't happen often, and that's why they're classic. But it's so hard to make a good long song so good. It just is. People are going to lose it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And what do you guys think about when coaches or directors are on the court? How long are your lessons? How long do you do? Is a private lesson a half hour, an hour? What's typical?
Usually an hour or hour and a half if it's a group. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I like that idea of longer lessons. I think it helps them to focus a little bit longer, which in the course of maybe a really long, difficult match, it might be an hour and a half, could be 2 hours even. And a lot of our players are not used to focusing for that long. And that's a big part of the mental game, right? The distraction control and being in what I would call present moment awareness, which knowing where your brain is. Because you can be on court 6 playing, but your brain could be miles away. And that's a big part of winning too, is understanding distraction control. And
It's being able to focus that takes up probably the most amount of energy, because if you look in a normal tennis match, it's maybe 8, 9, 10 minutes of actual physical play, and that's for
yes,
like a 3, 4, 5 set match. So there's a lot of in between time, but you have to stay
yeah,
focused that entire time. So I always try to get my players to make sure that when we do a lesson, the lesson is 10 times harder than any match they'll ever play.
mm,
If they can get through a 90-minute lesson with me, they are ready for a match.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think it's important that we teach the players to understand that when they're in a match, they're doing more than one performance. And like you said, the hitting and the running is about 3, maybe 5 seconds. The in between point performance, where they have to reset and problem solve, inner dialogue, that's the second performance. And that's what most athletes, that's where they fail miserably. But I think most athletes fail with their second performance because they don't play enough practice matches. They don't practice problem solving. And for you all tennis directors that are still coaching on the court, I think we have to teach them to solve their own problems. So that's a big key, is the between point. If we're like, if I'm giving a lesson and I'm teaching, okay, we're going to do approach shots down to the backhand, come in, cross court volley. I'm already pre-setting what the athlete's going to do. And then the next lesson, I'm pre-setting something else, and I'm pre-setting something else. That means that the student does not have to problem solve in milliseconds. And then they get in the match and they're used to the coach telling them what to do. Now they have to make their own decisions. Am I on offense, neutral, defense? Should I go cross court line? They have to make their decisions. And that's what they don't practice that enough, making great decisions. So
Yeah. And have you seen any differences generationally? Because now I feel like parents are a lot more involved than they used to be. And also attention spans, supposedly, we're all getting dumber and dumber every day because we're all on our phones. And now with AI, that's just going to go down. But in your experience throughout the years, have you seen any difference? And is it more challenging now to teach those things than it used to be or not?
I think teaching the mental and emotional side is becoming way more accepted. And that's oh, like you said, though, Jennifer, the blessing and the curse of AI. And I do tennis parent workshops like every month. And for the USTA, I do with Paul Anacone, and we do this high performance stuff. And the parents, they don't have the attention span either, but it's wonderful to take time doing that. So I agree with you. We have to work on kids being able to stay focused longer. And there's a lot of talk about ADHD, being more present. And if you have people that have trouble focusing, just set your phone timer for 10 minutes. Say, look, Joey, we're not going to talk for 10 minutes straight. We're going to work on your skills. You're going to problem solve in your own head. We'll talk in 10 minutes when this alarm goes off. And then they have to practice playing silently, because that's what you do in a match. It's very hard for a lot of kids and a lot of adults. And then, of course, you go from 10 minutes to 20, then to 30. And yeah, practice the idea of staying present. It's hard to do. It's hard nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you guys even, if you're working with kids, do you let them bring their phones to their tennis lessons?
I've worked at some clubs where they had a no cell phone policy, and it was like the best thing ever.
Well,
I wish every club did that, to be honest.
Yeah. Sometimes on changeover times, like we're picking up balls, I do ask the athlete occasionally, I go grab your phone. Got to go on Chat GPT, and you tell me, what do you think about whatever the topic might be? Like with this college kid I'm working with right now, it's how toxic perfectionism is. And that's her issue. If she's not perfect, she implodes.
Of course, it's a she, by the way.
Yeah. I like it. I have them use it, then I have them teach me.
Yep.
And or of course, with phones now, we can do the video. So we'll take their phone, have the parent stand behind the athlete and videotape maybe biomechanics, and then watch it back in slow motion. That's wonderful. But if they're checking their social media, probably not. In my opinion, with video, the best thing we can do with so many players is do match play video analysis, where you're, as a coach, you're doing a Zoom session with the athlete. They're at their house, you're at your house. It's getting the coaches off the court a little bit. You have to preserve your body. It's super important that coaches get off the court a little bit. If they're one of those coaches that love coaching, and I did, but 60 hours a week on court, after a while, you need new knees, new hips. Yep. Skin cancer is crazy through the roof. And one of the best things about coaching the mental emotional side is you can sit down with the athlete and go through customized evaluations with them, put plans together, and teach kids how to be accountable. It's their plan. It's not their parents' plan. It's their dream. It's not the parents' dream. And I think that's very important. Jennifer, I think more so than ever, I'm teaching life skills and character traits. Yep. It's not just bending your knees anymore. It's
that's what they say, right? It's sports doesn't build character, it reveals it.
It reveals it totally.
Yep.
Totally. And a lot of the juniors talk the talk. The words say one thing, but their actions don't. And I'm having trouble with some of the younger juniors doing what I'm recommending. I just call it the 5 a.m. club, right? And it's really just, they're getting up a half hour early every morning and they're doing some sort of athleticism. Maybe it's strength training before school, Monday, Wednesday. Tuesday, Thursday, it's speed, agility, endurance. Friday, it's more of a stretching routine. But if they can get used to getting up earlier and exercising before school, the grades actually get better. They focus better in school. And it all adds up, the cumulative effect of even 2 hours a week for a year. That kid's way more athletic in a year. And but that's self-coaching too, isn't it? And that's getting them to be accountable. I have some kids that I call them at 6 a.m. I go, "Are you doing it?" And they're like, "No, I'm still sleeping." But yeah, man, it's a fun world. And I think that the kids that get really good, even the parents that get good, they know how to prepare for pressure a little bit better, and they do their homework. The kids that get A's, they get A's because they do their homework. And the tennis players that fail don't do their homework.
Right.
Yeah. So Frank, let me ask you this. Since we're on the topic of parents and kids, I know that you're a parent and I know that you also have grandkids. So how's that going to work out for you? Are you bringing your grandkids into tennis? So you're going to show them the ropes?
I don't know. Great question. I'd like to. The oldest is 6 now, Olivia. And she's a hoodlum. I don't know, man. She's all over the place, this kid. So we tried tennis. We tried every sport. She does soccer. But she's big into dance. So I took her to ballet every Thursday for a year. And she just liked the outfit. She just wants, yeah, that's it.
That's why I
So
got
that
into
was
ballet
fun,
too,
but
Frank. It's also why I got into ballet. Why not?
yeah, hey, the tutus
Why
are
not?
everything, man. But I think just between you and I don't want anybody else to hear this, but between you and I really don't want to be the coach of my grandkids.
Yeah.
That's difficult. That was tough being a tennis parent. It was very rewarding. And just to see your kid playing at the US Open,
Yeah.
interesting for me, I was satisfied and done when she did that the first time. I was like, okay, whatever she decides to do, wonderful. And but it was like one of the dreams for me too. Can I take a kid from zero to that level? And she did it. Malcolm Gladwell, you guys mentioned that, and him and his books, and the 10,000 hour rule, the 20 hours a week for 10 years to be world class at something. To me, it's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty darn close. Sarah, my daughter, played the US Open in 6,000 hours. So we documented it. I did every week, we documented it. And every week for 5 years, I said, if you keep working this hard, if you keep doing this stuff, you're going to be playing at the US Open. And she would always say, shut up, I am not. You're an idiot, basically. But what are we doing really? We're building the belief. Because what we say, what we do probably is more important. It's modeling, right? So yeah, if you coaches, if you're a tennis parent and a coach, if you're pointing out the problems all the time after matches, if you're getting them in the car and telling them the 12 things they're still doing wrong, you're building the fact that when they get into matches, they're going to fall apart.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more question for you before we let you go. I want to know what your definition of success is. With all this being said, what is your definition of success?
As a coach, I think it's just happiness and gratitude. If you can do a career, and I've had 40 years now doing this. If you can have a career and walk away and be satisfied and be happy and know that you hit 75% of the marks you were trying to hit, that's excellent. It's not perfect. It's just excellent. And that's all we're asking of our students, right? Is you don't need to be perfect. Just try to be excellent. So that's what I've been trying to do. And I'm trying to wind down the career a little bit now. I'm still on the court 20 hours a week, but that's plenty for me. And so now I'm enjoying life for the first time, which is like this weekend. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. If you're listening to this now, I'm home this weekend.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that in 40 years. So anyway, coaches, look, try not to miss all the family dinners, all the birthdays. Try not to miss all the holidays because you're going to regret that later on. And I know it's work. I know we have to pay the bills, but take care of yourselves. That would be my bit of advice.
That's great advice.
Frank, thank you so much. It was so great, wonderful getting to know you and hear about your wonderful career. What a career, my goodness.
Yes. You too, both of you, Jennifer and Kyle, man, I'm a fan. So thank you guys for all that you do. And next time I'm down in Florida, I'm going to find you guys. I'll look you up.
Please.
Oh, please do. Come to Southwest Florida.
Come to Southeast Florida, Southwest Florida. We definitely have you covered.
All right, very cool. You guys all the best. And whenever you see Jared Chirico, tell him I'm still worried about his low backhand volley. I remember when he was 16. So, man, he's got to get down to those volleys. Tell him.
Well, tell him. We'll make sure to keep this in the episode too.
All right, all the best, you guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, Frank. Take care.
Bye-bye.